Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for coming, and we really do appreciate your support. And like any good open source sort of discussion, it's always a call to action someplace in it, so we'll get to that as we get to the end. I'm Todd Moore. I am watching out for the operations of the OpenSSF as well, too. At the Linux Foundation, I take care of all the large projects that we have and keep them on track and support them. It's all up to you. That's been a song title for anybody in my generation, but also a book. But in this case, it's really something that comes to mind for security. It's all up to every one of us. We all have a role to go play in security, no matter what we do, just as consumers of technology or those who produce it. And today we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I'll give you a little idea of what we're doing at the OpenSSF. But first, I sort of wanted to start a little bit with what we do at the Linux Foundation so you get the context of what we're trying to do with the OpenSSF, because putting it in context, I think, will really help. All right, so first I thought I'd start with a little levity here. So my friends think that I am out running around the world giving talks like this, and I'm out in exotic places having a lot of fun. My mom, on the other hand, thinks that I'm a Boy Scout. I take care of everything for everybody. Everything is wonderful. Because it's open source and free love and free software, society thinks out helping that way. But developers think I have a pile of money and I can go and fund projects and help them go and do anything, which unfortunately we don't pay developers to go do software development for us, except for a couple of special cases like Linus Torvald. That's kind of important. My crew here, I hope, thinks that I am the best boss, but what we actually do is really just we're the janitors. We have within us, and for some reason the speaker notes didn't come up, folks, the ability to go and support projects both with marketing, events like you're seeing here, infrastructure, helping them set up their projects, finances, doing training and certification, legal assistance if you need it, just evangelism. And generally, developers don't know how to do marketing very well, so we help you go and get your project known. And there's reasons why we want to do that. But within the Linux Foundation itself right now, we have this incredible spectrum of opportunity and collaboration that our members and our contributors and maintainers all are part of. On the one hand, in data, we have probably the largest open data project going on of anybody with Overture Maps. Big players in the industry have come together to go and create an open data set for mapping, and I think it's a wonderful project. 2/3 of those AI models, everybody wants to build something in AI these days, are built with PyTorch. PyTorch is one of the foundations underneath the Linux Foundation. RISC-V, you've probably seen headlines about it, sort of at the low end of IoT, building itself up into bigger and bigger things. Billions of cores shipped using the instruction set architecture that's homed at the Linux Foundation. Salsa helping as a community specification in what we're doing here with supply chain and leveling. Common cloud controls. Citi actually proposed this through the Finos group as a way of coming up with standards across the common clouds that are out there, the CSPs, so that you could have consistent security and resiliency and controls across those clouds. And then, of course, international standards like SPDX, it's ISO 5692, helping out with Exchange and SBOMs. So wide spectrum of opportunity here. And as the tagline says now, a foundry of collective innovation. And to be evidenced, you can see that it's more than just even that set of things that I brought up. As an organization, we continue to grow 30% year on year in terms of projects. I'll show a little bit about that, a little follow on, but not only in security, as we're here today talking about, but networking, cloud, automotive. You get into a Toyota car, you're driving automotive-grade Linux as an example, right? Blockchain, obviously, in there, Fabric has been a staple out there. Edge, IoT, web, CI/CD, the Continuous Delivery Foundation is also part of the Linux Foundation, helping those to go and build infrastructure that can deliver code well. And then, of course, hardware. We have a number of different hardware things going on, and then the standards. There's about 120 different standards across Linux Foundation that are happening. So pretty broad space. But we're also engaged with universities and NGOs, and we have 41 member countries. This is old data. There's well over almost 900,000 developers contributing code these days. Using standard software evaluation tools, the code that lives within the Linux Foundation would be valued about $100 billion. We've trained over 2 million developers. And when you look at the number of folks who are there contributing code, you attribute to them, say, $40,000 a year in salary across the world. That would be a $42 billion payroll if you had to actually go and produce that. So it's an incredible amount of code that lives, manages, and is freely exchanged through what we do here. I put this chart up only for a couple of points. Up in the top left-hand corner, you can see that there's 110 million lines of code added weekly, another 14 million taken away. And down in the bottom, sort of right-hand side over here, you can see that there's approximately a 250,000 vulnerabilities that have been detected, which I think is really important to all of us who are thinking about security here. So a lot of gee whiz numbers. Yes, there's a lot going on in the foundation and the work that's happening. But what we're trying to do is to build a home that can also build ecosystems, right? To work with the projects that are there to be both innovative and durable through time. The projects that come to us, companies, communities, other developers want to be able to depend on. They want to make sure that that license that's there is something that's going to stick with it, and that through time they have a place where they can come to depend on that code because they want to build businesses, build other communities, build other code up around and through it. And in supporting those ecosystems, and I won't have you read the eye test here, right? Anything that you need to be part of that sort of virtuous cycle is available through the services that come from the Linux Foundation. So whether it's just support with resources, you just want to put your code up and have your license and trademark held, to actually marketing, training, certifying, going out and doing just about anything you can think of in terms of helping developers get in tune with your code and get working with it, we can do those kinds of things. The sky's sort of the limit, and we have projects of all sorts of different scales within the foundation. Some that are completely unfunded that just live there, and those that are large, like the Cloud Native Computing Foundation projects like Kubernetes, which are just absolutely huge and used around the world. So why do people come to us? They seek neutrality. That's really important. Having your intellectual property live in a place where it's not going to have the license pulled out from underneath you is pretty important. Governance, helping people come up with the rules and responsibility, knowing how there's a path to becoming a maintainer within a community, very important. The resources, the events, the things that we've been talking about here, the build infrastructure that you need to just go and do your normal development of your code. Of course, we want to see things grow, and we are here to help people go build just global projects that can be used by everyone. We'll help organizations raise funds. We have a huge Rolodex of just about a who's who of everybody across industry and government and finance. So it allows us to go out and work with those folks to see your projects and make an investment in them. And of course, you get to have a shared experience with your colleagues. You have a place to come and work that's a safe place to come and work and collaborate on those things that are really important to you and have fun. We also have a suite of tools in behind us. It's called LFX. And it allows you to go and build your project and then see the details underneath that when you're enabled in LFX. So insights providing you the ability to see, like with Scorecard that we'll talk about as we go through the day, how your project's doing on security and then take action on it. A mentorship platform, if you want to get other people engaged in your project and mentor those people up to become maintainers, we can help you do that. CLAs, org dashboards if you're a business and you're looking in and you want to see what's going on within those projects that you're supporting. All those kinds of things are available within the structure we have. So how's this all sort of come together with what we're doing here today? Obviously, there's a lot of open source that was in that. Tremendous amount of code, tremendous amount of activity, many, many hundreds of thousands of developers all engaged in this. And when you look at people picking up and using that code, you find that 98% of general code bases, guess what? They have open source in them. Oftentimes, 70 to 90% of that code is open source code on average. This is somewhat old data, but you can see that we started off at a point where there was maybe 80 packages or so in a project, and in 2020 it was 528. I can tell you from experience, though, that I have pulled the covers off of different companies' software and worked with them through acquisitions and things, and seen thousands of packages actually making up a project and a product. So dependencies are ripe, and you need to be able to manage those. Also, at the same time, the threat landscape is just incredibly huge now. Jim Zemlin, who you probably thought you were going to see up here and speak, he and I were sitting in a conference room in San Francisco. It was enjoyant. We were working with Scott Hammond to bring Node.js into the Linux Foundation. And while we were sitting there, his phone was blowing up and my phone was blowing up. And at that point, it was the press all trying to figure out if they could get a quote from Jim Zemlin about what was going on with Heartbleed. And from back home, for me, it was the entire executive team saying, what the hell is happening? Please come and tell us, right? So that was the point where I said, this has really changed. We are so embedded in the world and what's going on here now that they've all taken notice, and it's never going to be the same. And I don't think it really has been since then. And of course, then we've had a number of other things. I was working in OpenJS. Obviously, we got Node.js into the Linux Foundation. We formed that up with the JS Foundation, and we had OpenJS, and of course, along the way came vulnerabilities with NPM. And if there's anything that still keeps me up at night, it's JavaScript security, and anybody who knows anything about that, that's enough said. And then, of course, more recently, Log4j and Log4Shell here as an issue that just caught the world's attention and has really just driven folks crazy. So this isn't going to stop. The number of CVEs reported every year just is continuing to go up, and we need to do something about it. So that's us. OpenJS was a nice project, but OpenSSF is a great project because it's bringing folks together. It's bringing members of our communities, whether it's developers, those who are security experts, policymakers across the world. We have every government, I think, thinking about what should be the set of rules that they want to place on top of all the developers, and some of them aren't very pretty. We in the organization have worked, and I'll speak a little bit about that later, to try to mitigate some of that with some of the organizations. But as we bring these initiatives together, as we put tools in place for developers to make their lives easier, this is the place to go and do this. This is the place to talk about policy and then get that back into the policy world. This is the place to get consistent messages together to take out into the world so that people understand that they have to take security seriously, and we can all help to go and do that. So we collaborate with our communities. You saw that great breadth of work that we have within the Linux Foundation. We are trying to make sure as part of the OpenSSF that we're addressing every one of those communities, meeting their needs, and helping them understand what they have to go and do. So within our ecosystem here, we have maintainers, we have people supplying code, we have people who are consuming it either directly or indirectly as they find out, and of course then the CISO and the public sector folks are here and partnering with us, not just off to the side thinking about us. We actually do have partnership things happening. And we're here to go and do a number of things. We have work groups, projects, special interest groups. The projects are really code projects. The special interest groups get people of like mind together to work on things. We need to inform the world. So there's a lot of projects in building guides, helping people understand what's going on there. We have vulnerability disclosures, obviously, is a really important thing. How do we do remediation there, and how do we report those things? But how you secure your projects to how you equip with best practices. We have a lot of guides, badging, information for people how to harden what they're doing. More of that going on every day. We have tools that help developers go and do attestation, report things back, report the integrity of and provenance of what they've done along the way, standards and specifications to help you understand what it is, the levels of security that you have as you're trying to go and harden what you're doing. And then, of course, how to go and secure your work through repositories and making sure that entire supply chain is secure and visible. And we can talk about that in a second. But so these are sort of, three sort of main categories of things. But how does that lay out into the developer's world? So I'm an architect by nature. I love to see how things all fit in. So we have projects that address developers, right? So best practices, education, how to go about hardening your Python environment. Those are things that are easily there and available to developers. Of course, then as you move on to what do you do with your source code? Well, gee, how do I go and now secure that source code? How do I test that it has not been tampered with? How do I go and build and do that in a secure way and do it to a specification that others can understand the levels of which I've gone to securing that code? Then, of course, how do I package it up and make it useful to others? How do I report that vulnerability information and manage my dependencies that I have there? And then how do I select those packages as I go back through that whole loop and make things work? And then, of course, at the end side of this, how do consumers then go and interact with the code that we have? So all across the spectrum throughout the process, we're providing tools, education, and work to bring people together and understand what's going on to secure their code. And there's about 19 projects underneath us. Not every one of them has a logo yet. As they graduate through the system, we'll give them logos. Some of the interesting things like best practices badge, very useful. Project that is near and dear to my heart just because I love to be able to see how things interact between the packages is Guac. When log4j hit or other things have hit, trying to figure out where all that code is in your products across a big company. At that time I was with IBM, huge software portfolio, really difficult task. Being able to visualize what's going on there, things like that would have been just wonderful, but so Guac I think is a great project and I really enjoy that. Salsa, I've sort of talked about. SigStore, I think a lot of people already know what SigStore does. But again, great projects are here and available. OpenVex, and you'll see from Tim coming up here to talk, a little bit of work done to actually take the work done in the VEX working group that CISA had put together and then bring that in and bring that together in code and OpenVex. So it's a partnership, and working with CISA, we've been able to do those things, which sort of leads me to government policy, global policy in this case. Europe has the Cyber Resiliency Act in full swing. In about 2 years, it's going to become very much a reality. It already is. And if you are a manufacturer, you're going to have to certify that when you're going to ship a product, there are no known vulnerabilities. Now, exactly what vulnerability reporting database that comes from, not yet known. A little interesting. And whether it's known or not, a little interesting. Think about, I use the Ring doorbell example as a really good one. I've got a Ring doorbell on the front of the house. It's got a device, it's a little IoT device, it's got a stack on it, it sits on a network, it talks to another chime that's got another stack on it that sits on a network, on my network, communicating back through the bigger network out into the world, into a SaaS product that's out now with a back end with a full stack on that, talking to a device with another full stack, all of them running some version of some operating system at varying different levels. So where in that is the known vulnerability? There has to be one, right? So going to be a little hard to go and implement. But we are, we are in there helping them. We've helped shape what's going on in the feedback back to the European Commission. We've joined, or in the process of joining their expert group for the CRA. We're part of the organization MSPICT that's actually setting some of the standards. And you'll see us with a policy summit that we're going to do in Europe as well too in December to sort of help that out. So I personally have been meeting with the commissioners and working with them for many years. Hopefully this moves along, and we within the OpenSSF will be having our own, under our policy work group, a CRA work group to help bring that feedback through from the whole community perspective. And of course in the US, we have a lot going on. I already mentioned CISA and SBOM work and VEX, but then the securing principles for package repository, and then the RFIs and RFCs that come out in response to them and bringing comments together from the community. So we're actively engaged wherever we possibly can be. We encourage all of you who are members of the community to come and do that same thing. When we call for suggestions and review of things, please lend an eye and give us some fingers on keyboards and tell us what you think. It would really be helpful. So participate. I mean, that's really my key message at the end here. Participate. It's the best way that you can help. Remember, it's all up to you, and we need you, and we need you to be part of this. So many of these SIGs and work groups that I flashed up there that you can get off this pitch later on are really in early stages. You can come in, you can make a difference, you can help us. We have bi-weekly meetings and mailing lists, and Slack is available. It's easy to come and engage with us. We have an openssf.org blog that's available. You can come and find us easily there. But we're working with governments, industries, academia, continuous delivery, everybody that we possibly can to go and get the message out there and get all of you engaged as best you possibly can. So I am over time, but I thank you all.